So in total, we have 126 people registered to participate, and now we have 39 people join. So 1/3 of the total numbers of participants. So we might need a little bit more time for them to join. The weather is beautiful out there in Melbourne, so okay, so I will give 1 more minute. We have the numbers of participants now is 44. Okay, so in the interest of time, so perhaps we might get started. People will keep joining during the section. So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tuấn Nguyen. I'm a principal research fellow in the social gerontology divisions of the National Aging Research Institute. Welcome to our online seminars in aging programs. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which each of us are meeting today. For me, that is Wurundjeri peoples of Kulin nations. I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands and waters across Australia. I pay my respect to elder past and present, and to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, including members of the stolen generations. Firstly, a little housekeeping regarding Zoom. At the conclusions of the talk, we will have some time for Q&A. If you have any question, you can submit them throughout the seminar using the chat function, which can be opened using the chat tab at the bottom of your screen. Today's seminars will be recorded and uploaded to our website within a few days. Please keep in mind, if you turn on your videos to ask a question, that your image will be included in this recording. Today, we will be hearing from Professor Rihanna Miranti. Rihanna, or you can call her Mira, is a professor at the University of Canberra and a visiting academic at NARI. As a socio-economist and development economist, she has a strong research interest in social well-being and equity. She particularly focused on issues of disadvantage and well-being, including poverty, social exclusion, and inequality, affecting children, youth, older people, and other population groups. Mira has two specializations, Australia and Indonesia. She is a program director of the Master of Public Policy at the University of Canberra and a convener of the Indonesia programs in her faculty. Today, she will be presenting Enhancing Wellbeing in Later Life, Insights into the Lives of Mature and Older Australians. Welcome, Mira, and over to you.
Thank you, Tuan, for your kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. So hopefully you can hear me clearly. Lovely to be here. I mean, it's a beautiful day. Oh, thank you so much. Beautiful day in Melbourne. So before I start, I would like to also acknowledge that, I'm actually here in Melbourne, so I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodian of the land of Wurundjeri and all other lands on which we gather today, and pay my respect to the elders past, present, and emerging. I extend my respect to Aboriginal and Torres Islander peoples who are here today. So before also, I would like to mention that what I'm going to present today is about the kind of the summary of my work in this field. So it's about well-being of mature age and also older Australian. So I would like to also acknowledge and thank to NARI. I'm really grateful with the opportunities to visit NARI during my sabbatical leave, actually, at the moment. Particularly to Professor Tuan Nguyen and also Professor Tasi Commons as the director of NARI. Thank you so much for your hospitality. And then I would like to acknowledge thanks University of Canberra for their outside studies program or sabbatical program, where I'm actually now be able to do a focus on research activities, and also to co-authors and research collaborators with whom that I actually work on these articles or research outputs, and then that I'm going to talk to you today. So a little bit of introductions about who are that I'm going to discuss. So as you are aware, it's about the mature age and older adults in Australia. So 24% of Australians are 45-64. So when we talk like mature age population, it's basically usually ABS defined for 45 or plus. So I'm actually belong to that particular cohort. So when we talk about aging population or other adults, so around 17% of Australians are 64 and plus. As probably all of you are aware, we have quite high life expectancy at birth, which was 81.2 years for males and 85.3 years for females. So why we discuss well-being in these presentations today? So if you have the opportunity to attend NARI Annual Summit this year in September, I have the privilege to actually attend. We discuss about human rights or older people's rights too, and then having really, like a really good well-being is human rights and older people's right too. And then Australia is a member of OECD countries. For those who follows what's been OECD's also been doing, so we discuss a lot about well-being, which like covering multidimensional of factors ranging from civic engagement to participation, housing, and other like factors in life. And then this is combined positive and negative aspect. I will discuss more about capabilities and vulnerabilities later on as a framework that basically define all the well-beings. And in the Australia context, for those who probably also may be aware that we had Treasury National Wellbeing Framework, which was now launched last year. So measuring what matters. So this is then, as a background that why the works in the well-being is actually relevant. And then also in the context of mature age population and older population. So that will be the scope today. So I will focus on the mature age and older adults. And that in terms of when we talk about well-being, it's actually multidimensional. But what I'm going to focus at for today is about participation, domain, health in relation to the health, and also relationship about between the well-being and also place, so where you live. So that's the one. So this is the one that I think you have seen it in the advertisement for this seminar as well. So the first one, I'll talk about the participation landscape, which talk about the contribution and vulnerabilities associated with paid and unpaid participation. The second one is about the implication in health, particularly discussing about mental health. And then participation vulnerabilities. And later on, as I mentioned earlier, is discussing about the relationship between well-being and place. We talk about the spatial measures of well-being, taking examples from the index of well-being for older Australians that we developed last time. And then we will conclude and then discuss some policy recommendation. So for this one is contemporary participation landscapes. So this figure shows you about labor force participation, a time series one from 1978 to 2023. As you can see, I mean, like a lot of things going on there, but the main idea is Australia, given that we have a life expectancy is actually becoming longer, and Australians also working longer. In the sense that if you look at the labor force participation rate, I mean, like, so if you look at the three lines at the bottom is for 65 and over. And then you can actually see that across times now is, like it's actually the labor force participation rates is higher in, the latest figures is actually referring to August 2023. So in comparing to like 1978, so you can actually see that for females and males, the labor force participation rate is actually, like increasing quite a lot actually, particularly for females. And also, if you look at here, I mean, like for the 55 and 64, and then 45 or above, is you can actually see that, labor force participation actually increasing over time in terms of the time series period. But then if you look at those who are employed, so this shows you the employment composition between the full-time and part-time work as you age. So you can actually see from the figures here, when you get older, the employment type basically shift from full-time to part-time, which is, this makes sense. When you are getting older, you decline, your participation in the paid work shift, then particularly then from full-time to the part-time employment. And then what type of employment you will do, I mean, when you are getting older? So does it actually change? So this is a little bit, like it's crowded in terms of the figures. But if you look here, I mean, like if you particularly look at the dark blue one, the managers, and then the orange one, which refer to professionals. I mean, like the comparison for males and females. Like you can actually see here, the orange one is basically professionals. It's kind of like, when you are 65 and older, if you still work by that time, then you are either professionals, or you probably also, or you are in the managerial positions, for example. While if you are in the technicians and trade workers, and that occupations, the proportion actually decline when you are older. Then if you look at according to females, right, if you are like here, you can actually see, interestingly, if you are professionals, there is like slightly actually decline when you are older. But then the proportion of those that are doing clerical administrative workers actually increase when you are getting older. So there are a little bit, like a shift in terms of the occupation of types of works that people are doing when you are older. So this is particularly for those who are still in employment when you are older, particularly when we talk about like 65 years and over. And then, okay, I mean, like Australians seems to work longer, so what's happening with their health, right? I mean, like, so if you keep, you want to work longer, then you need also to probably have good health also to accompany your participation. So these are just, to give you a little bit of idea about how we are placed in terms of the OECD's countries comparisons in terms of self-rated health status. So whether you have good and very good health, so basically here I put this for 65 years or above, and then you can actually see that Australia tends to be healthy. They have really good perceptions about their health status, like with 74%. People say yes, and then having good or very good health in comparison. For example, like OECD's countries here, 46, which is like much less in comparison to the Australian on average. So that is in terms of the health status. Okay, so after discussing a little bit about, like what's happening in terms of the paid participation. So now we talk about unpaid work. How about unpaid work? I mean, like, well, what can we see? I mean, like from the pattern in these unpaid contributions from the mature age and also for other Australian. And then as you can see here, also, like unpaid voluntary to organizations, or a group, or also unpaid work to support family members. So this is if you are, like having grandchildren, it's actually high than the younger groups. So there is also, like a pattern there that the mature age and also older Australian are contributing to participate through the unpaid work as well, not only through the paid participation. So, like, so this one is one of the articles that we wrote together with Professor Mark Evans last time in terms of determinants of community engagement. So one of particular indicators that we use in terms of community engagement is volunteering. The other one is basically about political participation, but for this purpose, I've just focused on the volunteering. So we use HILDA data, so the household income labor dynamics data in Australia. So the volunteer here use the indicator which represent the spare time to work on boards of organizing committees of clubs, community groups, or other nonprofit organization. So we use like TRIS data, and then 3 groups of cohort generation. So the first one is baby boomers or the older Australian. And then the other one, we also have a look at the generation X and also Gen Y. So then if you look here, I mean, like that is in the context of the trust and social capital, which is about the sense of community, and then how that actually have an impact in community engagement and volunteering. So then the results are quite interesting. So this is in terms of the descriptive statistic. When we look at the, like the proportion on average among the baby boomers or Gen X, Gen Y, in terms of the volunteering activities, you can actually see the baby boomers or older generation actually have a higher proportion amongst them to volunteer. So the yes ones, so that is almost 37% in comparison to Gen X, 30%, Gen Y. So, so Gen Y is the one that born 1981, 1988, so 21.46%. The same thing if you look at the males, so this is females, the right side is males, is higher at the baby boomer one. And then if you look at, I want to know why that's the case, and we look at how then having, like trust and the sense of community, sense of belonging to the communities actually matters. And then the results shows that a lot of, like when we talk about volunteering, so basically baby boomers, like having, trust, So this is trust to general trust, basically whether you trust everyone. And then also like, so having high sense of community or social capitals, like sense of belonging actually matters for the baby boomers, for males and females to participate in volunteering. So, as mentioned earlier, how they're having the higher sense of communities associated with volunteering participation among all generations, but the impact is actually bigger among the Australian older generation. Then this also indicate the statistics earlier, because then the older generation also tend to be more proactive in terms of volunteering in the community if we compare it to the younger population. So, so this is really about the contributions, right? The participation in unpaid participation, so towards the volunteering. And then the importance of trust, and then the sense community, which now represent the social capitals that's required also for engagement in the context of the older population. So we discuss about the contributions, right? So when we talk about paid participation and unpaid participation through the volunteering. So when we talk about the contribution, so what are the vulnerabilities? What are the challenges? So basically, if we discuss in the context of the paid work, now what are the challenges? So one of the topics that I've been actually working as well, when we investigate the vulnerabilities among the mature age population. So this is the issue of underemployment. So the issue is whether, you want to actually prefer to work more hours. And then in the context of the literature, that can be, relevant whether you work full-time or part-time. So, but basically it's a lot also discussions, particularly if you are working part-time, then you want to add more hours, but you can't. So that is the issue of underemployment in this context as well. So if you can actually see here, of course, when you are young, you are maybe then you are really keen to participate actively in the paid work, then you will have you may experience this underemployment. But if you look at here, when you are getting older, and this strikes again, particularly then if you want to get a new job, for example, right? For those that may be being away for a certain period and would like to come back, and then you want to basically, apply for a job, it can be actually hard if you compete with the, the younger generation. And the issues of discrimination, ageism, and everything, right? This is, then you work in the less hours than you prefer, for example, and then experience a prolonged types of a prolonged period of the underemployment. So what we also discuss, analyze, investigate before is about determinants of underemployment, which are particular focus on the part-time workers, 45 plus. And then the work trajectories are found to be correlated with socioeconomic variables. So if individuals have already had a strong labor market characteristic, so they will probably have less underemployment overall. So, but if you have already experienced underemployment before, then it will also increase the likelihood of underemployment later. And then particularly if you look at the demographic groups, if you are women, if you are migrants, and particularly for those who are born in non-English speaking countries, you will also have a heightened risk of more underemployed. So they are actually at the risk. Okay, so that is the one is more about, like the first part. Now we talk about the second part, which is about the relationship between the vulnerability that I just touched a little bit about underemployment, but now it's more moving to job strains and also more general types of hours mismatch, which also include overemployment and also its relationship with health, particularly in the context of mental health. So the number of working hours not necessarily depend only on the employee's choice, but it can be also employer's decision. So working fewer hours also can be, like associated with the job insecurity and then increased casualization, right? I mean, like because you work less, because that is what available. And then, if the, like a casual job having just that available, and then yeah, you try to get it, and then apparently then you were working fewer hours. Then I mentioned mature age workers tend to experience longer average duration of underemployment as well. So this is the issue about job strains and mental health. So from here there we have actually indicators about job demand and job controls. While actually job controls is whether you have, like flexibility in, in your work, whether your job also allows you to take initiative, and then you have a freedom to take a break, for example. You have a lot of freedom, you have a choice, you have a say to say what happened in your job. Or the other one is about job demand, which is, it's so stressful, complex, difficult, requires new skills. I have to work fast. I have to work very intense in the job. So this is a combination, like about whether you have low, high on your job demand or high, low control through your jobs. And then we categorize it to low strain, passive, active, and high strain. The high strain one is the one when you have high demand, but you have no low control. So it's the worst, particular, worst combination in this case. So we look at that and also the mismatch, job mismatch, or whether you are actually prefer to work less or over than what you actually work. So if you look at here in terms of job strain and our mismatch, you can actually see among females and males 45 to 64 years, the majority actually in the active one. So active is basically then when you have high demand, but you have high control, which is a good one. But you have also the high strain one, particularly among females, when you have a high demand job, but you have low control. And then we would like to see how then this in relation to the mental health. So we do have, like SF36 mental health, and then this is disaggregated into the components under that. So mental health, vitality, role, emotional, and social functioning. And then we could actually see that the movement from low, passive, active to high, which is from the, like this is worst going to high, then the mental health score is actually also going down. And then when we do the regression, I didn't actually put it here, but when we do the regression, the result actually shows that there is a negative correlation between working hour mismatch, so and also the job strain with the mental health status. So basically, then if you work with the high job strain, then like this is have a significant negative impact of your mental health. So a low control, high demand job has the significant negative impact on the mental health. Job strain tends to have a larger negative impact on older men than older women. But the underworked or underemployed has a larger negative impact on the older women than the older men. I think that's also reinforced the findings earlier when we have investigate the issue of underemployment is more prevalence actually in the among women. So that is like we look at the issues of mental health as well. So the vulnerabilities in the paid environment, in the paid participation, actually have negative association with the mental health. Okay, so the final one is about the spatial measures on the relationship with the well-being. So why we talk about place? So the attachment to location for older people, it depends on the physical environment, social environment, and support services. So when if we recall my discussion earlier, I mean, when we talk about determinants of the volunteering, and then in the context of social capital, about, the sense of community, which is about, the social environment, right? I mean, like attachment with the social environment matters. So this is the one, like one of particular element as well here, attachment to the location. So the importance of age-friendly environment. So this is from the late Hal Candy-Clausen. So location is important for older people as they tend to be less mobile than the younger people, especially when the health problems or more like issues become more common. Then in the context of Australia, we are geographically distributed, which the areas, like, I mean, like they are, it's a very big geographic. So it is really important also to understand this group's well-being and also the areas that high and low well-being to assist policy intervention or service provision to this group. And then the questions that we had for this is about, like how well are older people faring in Australia if we look in the context of, like where they live. So this is, like the conceptual framework while becoming the base of our work in terms of when we talk about how then we come up with the indicators of well-being at the end. So it's coming from the life force inequality, vulnerabilities, capabilities, resources, and location and mobility. I talk a lot already about vulnerabilities and capabilities. So this is basically also coming from this conceptual framework. If like this is particularly in the context of well-being literatures, social exclusion, economics. So coming from this, I mean, like talking about vulnerabilities, capabilities, resources, and then social exclusion, active aging, participation, health, security. I mean, like if you look at the domain level, so these are the one that, like the domain that we have, perhaps participation, education, health, or functional ability. At the end, we call it a functional ability, security, resources, and wealth and housing, and then indicators at the small area level. So this is when we talk about SA2 level, and we like in terms of the geographical classification, we adapt from ABS, Australia Bureau of Statistics. And then these are, like the indicators. Sorry if it is too slow or too small. So we look at the employment, we look at volunteering that we discussed last time as well, but this is in the context of the areas or suburb level data. So we also look at the proportion of people who complete year 12, 10, postgrad qualification, poverty, the one in housing stress, public housing. So it's really like multidimensional, covering these 5 domains and then and holistic measures basically. And then the main data is from census, but we do have also some modeling data through our spatial microsimulation and administrative data from ARHW in the context of Commonwealth home support program and also home care packages. So in relation to aged care, and then we do like a statistical analysis. So how are older adults faring in Australia? So these are geographical distribution of older adults well-being. So basically then after we have the index, we sorted the index and according to the score and map them according to these quintiles, so weighted quintiles. So each quintile have like 20% of older population in Australia. And then this is a map, like you can actually see there. So if the red one, red is actually the lowest well-being one. If the green, the highest well-being one. So it's kind of traffic, light system there. So I have to mention this is a 26, based on 16 census. We haven't actually got a chance to update it to 2021 census. So just keep in mind that this is back the previous census. So we could actually see the largest concentration of areas with the highest proportions of older people experiencing low well-being cluster in the cities. Areas in the regional Australia, you can actually see a lot of like a lighter color, including the green one, tend to have mid to high levels of well-being. And then, like why is that the case? When we look back again about the indicators, that is the one that in the regional area was driven by the employment and also volunteering activities as well. Although then there is also a lack of aged care facilities as well. I mean, like in the context of, if we talk about the challenges, then it's a lack of aged care facilities. If we talk about regional areas, but if we talk about that areas in the cities, that is because education and resources. When we talk about income, when we talk also about like like housing and participation rates contributes to the well-being in the inner cities areas. This may reflect also the social stratification and sources of retirement income for those people. So this is, like a comparison to the CIFA indicators of disadvantage, like from the ABS. And then we can actually see that there are, like around like 40% overlap, which is good. Then disadvantage may overlap. But then there are also other things that may not be captured by the indicators at disadvantage by CIFA, which cover everyone basically, adults, not only older Australians. So there are also differences. So these are, like the findings in terms of the indicators. If you look at the weights or the loadings for all the indicators that we use, if we talk about the positive, about the contribution, is the proportion of older people who are volunteers, basically, is the highest. But then if you look at the vulnerabilities, the percentage of older population who need assistance with core activities, so these are the ones that having long-term health issues, for example, or like people with disabilities, have sort of high weight there representing the functional ability. So these are relative ranking of indicators. So you can actually see if it is plus, is having the positive association with the well-being. If it is negative, having negative association with the well-being. So reflect both the capabilities, the positive one, resources, and vulnerabilities that experienced by the older population. So, but there are the limitation. The index was limited to the data which were available in small areas and does not allow us to differentiate the sections within the older population on the basis of gender or indigenous or cult of migrants. So, which is then, I think that limitations, like just, like everyone, basically, the general population. So I guess, like have been given around like 35 minutes to talk. So hopefully, like in the couple of final slides, I will conclude. So, like when the discussions today, like discuss about mature age and older Australian, and particularly showcasing the capability and resources domain. Like about the contribution to both paid and unpaid participations, and then the role of social capital as well, which is quite important in explaining the engagement when you are already, like actively moving from the paid to the unpaid participation. But we are also, like experience vulnerabilities or the issues under employment, job mismatch, job strain have been some of the vulnerabilities recorded for mature age workers. In the broader term, also these vulnerabilities negatively impact mental health. So I mentioned this reflect both sides of the coins. Then it's also the same when we talk about the well-being of older people at the small area level or at the, these geographical differences as well. It's also driven by, like the need for assistance indicators, which is about the vulnerabilities, perhaps among the older cohort who are more prone to sickness and frailty, but also then the highest loading also followed by volunteering indicators, which reflect the capacity of maybe of the younger group of older population. Again, that is this, confirm the vulnerability and capability concept in terms of the framework of well-being among the older people and mature adults. So what are the policy implications, right? Like looking at those. Like when we talk about the issue under employment and job mismatch, I think is the literature, so that what we found from our work is the first is to provide the flexibility, like for the mature age workers to work. So for example, working from home, job sharing, and then, like encouraging also life learning in the workforce as well through the training or skill upgrading for those who need them or want to do that. And then also to provide incentive for industry to hire the mature age workers as well. So in terms of the well-being and the place, also the issue is when we identify areas that have a low well-being, that it means that the service need to be provided to those places, because we are able then with this index to identify areas with a low well-being, then to, allow the government, also the non-government providers or service providers to like to provide services better, more precisely and more appropriately. So I think that's probably like all my presentation today. I would like to, like we'd be delighted to listen to your comment, feedback, your question and answer question as well. We'd be really happy to answer that. Thank you so much, and then back to you, Tuan.
Thank you very much, Mira, for the great presentations. It's really interesting and opened my eye to a numbers of areas. We now have time for some Q&As. If you have any questions, please submit the questions through the chat function. Alternatively, if you would like to ask your questions in person, you can turn on the cameras and microphones, and we will call you in turns. So, Jess, is it possible for you to stop sharing the screen so we can see the participants? And thank you. Okay, so while we waiting for the question from the audience, I have two questions for you, Mira. Actually, this is not related to the older population, but I have one example. I have a friend who thought that putting their children in a private school, which is more about the place and well-being, right? Receiving in the private school. Well, I was in Adelaide before, and there is a very high-ranking and very reputable private school called Saint Peter Boys School. It's serviced very well, and it's received a lot of support from the school for students who study in that school. And everybody is taught that, oh, sending their children to that school would be the best for the children because they receive that in the capital, the place and well-being of the children. But then after 1 year, being in the school, the families had a lot of argument, and they actually, they found that the decision to send their children to that school is a wrong decision because in that school the children will of the families of the student mainly very rich, and they have a lifestyle in a rich family ways, and that family is not very rich, but they try their best to send their children to that school, and the children found that, oh, actually they are not comparable to the other students. So can you use your framework of vulnerabilities and capabilities and the place and well-being to explain that situation?
Okay, thank you, Tuan, for the question. So I guess, oh, it's interesting because you bring up, the issue, the other example is basically I'm also working on the other, not about other people because I usually work on in terms of the life cycle. So I'm also investigating this well-being issue in the context of children, basically. I mean, like we have, like, for example, the Child Social Exclusion Index at the small area level. So yes, I guess it's the way that the way the examples you bring, I think shows that, okay, the importance of the well-being itself, right? I mean, like when we talk about well-being, we need to actually look at the multidimensional framework of the well-being. So it's not really only about, okay, if we talk about, your example is about education, right? I mean, the parents think that, okay, it's good, like it's providing the best education opportunity with the children. You think that, okay, the child will have, high education, well-being, for example. I mean, because we do have also education domain, maybe then, you will expect that, have high completion rates and everything, right? But that is the one, I mean, like it's only from that one particular point, but there are others that matters as well. And we talk about, like, for example, how about like maybe about other domains, right? I mean, like, how about, for example, connectedness domain? I mean, like in that context, about engagement domain, whether, like, for example, in the context of older people, whether they can volunteer, whether they can actually work, whether they can actually, participate. The same thing also, if you use your example, whether the child also have, like can be freely engaged in the school society, like maybe not. I mean, like, because there is no sense of belonging in the school as well. So I think it's with this type of, well, like in the context of the well-being, it is really important actually to look at the different angles. I mean, like, not only one particular point of view. So it's multidimensional, it's holistic approach. So I think hopefully that's answering your question, Tuan.
Thank you, Mira. So I would like to encourage the audience to post your questions in the chat box. While waiting, I have another question. Mira, when you talk about the two aspects of the domain of voluntaries and paid job, do you have any data for to compare between the older populations and the younger add-ons in terms of the impact of voluntary work on their well-being. And it seemed like the older people, they less, they are working less in the paid job, right? Because the structural discriminations of ageism and things like that prevent them to continue to work in the late life. So, is there any data showing the differences between the younger population and older generations in terms of the voluntary work and its impacts on the well-being of the two groups?
Yes, I guess, like it is quite, I think, well established in the sense that, if you, like if you are participating in through volunteering, that is, basically it will actually increase your well-being, right? And then in terms of the result, it's actually stronger for the older people in comparison with than the younger generation. But what will be actually really important as well, I mean, like is you just actually give me an idea to, to analyze is basically if, for example, for older people that who still choose to work and also volunteer at the same time, whether what is actually the impact between those and then which one higher to the well-being. I think that's the one that I think something that will be really interesting to have a look. But yes, I mean, like in terms of the literature itself, I mean, like and then what we found here, I mean, like because having volunteering is actually a good thing. I mean, like shows that that is actually contribution for the other populations to the society because the shift from paid to unpaid work. And that is really important because for other people, like with the longer life expectancy, living longer, you want to engage, you want to be, still, particularly because, the majority also still says that you are, having a good health status, then it's actually good, to contribute to the well-being as well by doing something that you like, like voluntarily. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mira. We have some questions in the chat box from audience. So the first question is, did you find that older people are working longer due to the older age requirement for the age pension? And did you find that it was a concern that people couldn't retire as early as they would like? Or were older people generally more keen to work to an older age in Australia? Just looking at the other countries and those with a higher age of retirement were the USA, which has a poor social service welfare system versus the Scandinavian countries. That's the question from NARI education.
Okay. Okay, so thank you so much for the questions. Okay, so this is it's a difficult one, right? So yes, I mean, like if we recall, I think in the past, we almost think there was kind of a call to increase the retirement age and then basically then also to work until 70. I mean, like I think it was a couple of years back, right? I mean, like then yes, I mean, like there is a increasingly like encouragement to work longer as well, right? I mean, like because of the issue with the cost of aging population, and then like but I think the most important thing, I guess, here is if we need to provide choices, I think, with older people. It's not about like whether then you have to work longer, because I think that measure in the budget also being killed, I guess, like, so it is not on place. But So becoming zombie measure, if I'm not mistaken. So, but if you choose to work longer, there should be the facilities as so that, like provided to them to work longer, right? About because they want to, if they want to work longer. But if not, that's okay, because, and in reality, so this is what's really interesting. The work that we did in the past, I mean, like last time, I didn't put it here because of the time, but when we look at the data about how old the effective retirement age in Australia, so basically it's really close to the 65. I mean, like, and then there are some people that retire early as well. I mean, like before 65. And then that's also indicate that not everyone would like to work longer, right? I mean, like, but I think the idea is if you want to work longer, I think the environments need to be also adaptable to provide, the older people to be able to work longer as well. So, okay, older people generally more keen to work or to an older age, so I think I mentioned that. I mean, like there are people that also would like actually retire early, so that like is not not everyone would like to longer, and then I guess it's also like depending on their health status as well, right? I mean, if you are healthier, then maybe then you are probably more capable to work longer as well. Just looking at other countries or those with a higher age of retirement, it has, okay. So yes, I guess it's, like, that's interesting. I think it's probably something that I need to have a look as well and for further research. I mean, like, how does this, like in comparison to the other countries, right? Whether like, for example, like, other countries with poor social or better social services also will have that kind of tendencies that for working longer as well. Thank you for like the question. Okay.
So I think that's the last question. We have time for last question, and the last question on the chat box is: have there been any study about the best way to increase knowledge, accessibility, and motivation for older isolated people to join the group to reduce their social isolation and increase their well-being?
Oh, thank you so much, Joy, for the questions. Yes, I mean, there are a lot actually in the literatures about this one, and then I guess this is the thing. It's probably the power of having informal participations, right? I mean, like, so when we talk about increasing knowledge or motivations, if we can actually start with something that is really small first. I don't know. I mean, like from the examples that I've observed, for example, in my surroundings, there are a lot of people trying to get it is with the like community groups. So rather than like you just start something like maybe book reading groups, for example, right? Or participate like taking a walk together, for example. So, but it's coming actually bottom up rather than from the top to bottom. I mean, like, so it's really that. But yes, I do understand. Like in practice, there should be a way, right, to encourage like these things to happen as well. And then I think this is probably also the area where the advocacy group service provider as well that can be able to fill in the gap, like is at the community level to provide like some, like support or motivation to be active, like to provide, avoid the social isolation and the well-being, not well-being, ill-being at the older age. So think hopefully I
Okay.
answer your question.
Thank you very much, Mira, and please join me in thanking Mira for her great presentations. And I would like to have some thing for you. Next month, Professor Simon Bell from Monash University will be presenting on the topics of medicine and safety. So please join us next month on Tuesday, the 12th of November at 12 p.m. Thank you very much for attending the seminars in Aging series. And once again, thank you very much, Mira, for your great thoughts. Bye for now.